Welcome again to the Do Brand You channel here. And today we have a very special interview with Megan Gallagher. And she was someone that we have had before. I am going to link in the show notes the link of that amazing conversation. But she is really evolving in who she is. She's doing a lot more, and we're going to find all of that out. But just for those of you that don't know or haven't listened to the previous one, I'll just share a bit about Megan, and she is on a mission to serve people, and she feels very lucky to live and work with energy, empathy, and enthusiasm to have a kinder, healthier world in which we can learn and grow and thrive. And that's really her overarching why she gets up in the morning, why she does what she does. And ever since she was a child, Megan wanted to be a teacher, and her dream came true. And she has had a wonderful career as a teacher. And again, we learned a lot about that in the past conversation. So dive into that. And also, she touches on in that conversation her fascination with the brain. And we went into some details about that. So I encourage you. She started Ignite Your Spark because she wanted to do more and to give more to people. And it is her greatest privilege to watch others thrive and helping individuals and groups to ignite their spark. She's a real full embodiment of doing brand you. She has evolved. That's what we're going to get into. So let's just get started. So Megan, thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it too.
Yeah, this is great. So we kind of left off in our last conversation with you. You were teaching, you loved the brain and how that was involved in how we educate, but you've come a long way since then. So can you just backtrack and bring us to where you are now?
So, yeah. So I've been through a lot of soul searching, and I'm sorry, my dog and my cat have just decided to arrive in the room. So if there's some movement going on, my apologies. But I went through a bit of soul searching because I was trying to spread myself over too many things. So I started coaching, and I was still teaching, and I was presenting and speaking, and I was finding that I actually just couldn't do all of what I wanted to do justice.
All right.
And so it then became really apparent that I needed to make a change for my own health. And to pursue this desire to make a bigger difference was that I actually needed to expand my world a little. And that meant that I had to make the decision about what I was going to leave or let go. And so I moved away from full-time teaching. And that was really hard because, you know, like I've said, I wanted to be a teacher from the time I was 5. I hadn't had any other desires really in terms of work. And so it was really, I went through quite a big thing about, you know, really connecting with my why. What is my purpose? What is it that I want to actually achieve in this world? And does it have to always be in a classroom? So since then, I made the decision to resign. I actually resigned a year before I left, so I had time to get to grips with the decision.
Wow!
And make peace with it. And then since then, it's been about me learning about business. And oh my goodness, what a minefield that's been. And about branching out, about being comfortable, being seen. And so, so I've sort of leaned into more of my coaching. I've been doing some consulting, working with schools, and it's been fabulous. Hard work, but fabulous.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. One of the things that you mentioned was that change, like you actually gave yourself a lot of grace by giving yourself a whole year before you were going to actually resign. And I love that because that really embodies this. You're doing it like I'm going to do this, but I just need to get used to this. But when I always say when we up level, when we move ourselves out of our comfort zone, that's when I have found and others have found the fears come more than ever before. Like, I used to be confident, now I'm afraid, or I used to have, now I've got all these self-limiting beliefs. I mean, did you have that happen?
Oh yeah, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
My biggest gremlin was the I'm not good enough, and who do you think you are to stand up there and say that you know something, or that you've got something to offer that others don't?
Yeah.
Wrestling with the feeling that, everybody knows this stuff, or there are other people out there that know this better than me. What am I doing? Also, how do I put it? Almost feeling like I was behaving irresponsibly. Here I am leaving a full-time job with a secure income and everything else, and going out on my own without, and to be perfectly honest, I didn't have a clear plan. I had a feeling for where I wanted to go, but I hadn't even mapped it out properly because I was such a business baby. I was so naive. And so, so all of that tumbled in, and that fear was huge. And one of the ways that I actually dealt with it was I kept coming back to, I think it's Elizabeth Gilbert that talks about this.
Yeah.
No, it's Brené Brown. About fear's coming for the ride. Well, it might be one or the other, I can't remember. Fear's coming for the ride, but because it's part of who we are, and it's a protection. It's our brain just trying to keep us safe, and keep us in that comfort zone.
Yeah.
So you acknowledge that it's going to come for the ride. It's going to be in the car, but it's in the back seat. It's not going to be in the front seat. It will never be in the driver's seat. In fact, it hasn't got the map. It's not even allowed to touch the radio, and quite frankly, we don't want it to speak, but it'll be there. And so it was about acknowledging that the fear is coming for this ride because that's just how it is. But everything else that is me is also coming for this ride. And all my collective experience and all the support networks I have, everything is coming with me. I'm not on my own.
Wow. I love that. I haven't heard that before. I just love that fear's in the back seat and it's never going to be in the driver's seat. Yeah. Golly. I love that. Before I go into a couple of other things, I just had this question as well. And it really is that point of people who are finding that purpose. They're finding that fire inside of them that they want to do something in the world. And then you got yourself into that situation of you're wanting to do that, but you've got a full-time job and you've got all of these other commitments. And then there was too much and you actually got to that point to say no. And I always talk about the power of no. So how was that for you?
Initially it was, in part it was quite confronting.
Yeah.
Because, I'm one of these people, and I think there's an awful lot of us probably in the same generation as me. And I'm thinking large woman, we grew up in the time of girls can do anything.
Yeah.
And I think that I interpreted it, and a number of us have interpreted it as girls should do everything. And so I was trying to do everything. And to come to that point where you sit there and you go, actually, I can't do everything with all of my heart. I just can't do that. Was quite confronting. And so then it was about a little bit of wrestling with that idea. Am I failing?
Exactly.
And so, what on the flip side of that was a tremendous sense of freedom. But to get to that was a bit of a journey. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember exactly when I got to that point, and it was January of 2017. And I was so overcommitted that I actually, in January, my New Year's resolution was to say no. And that was what I was going to do. And I said no all the time, the whole year. The first few times it was so hard. It was just, I felt like I was letting people down. I felt like I wasn't living up to what I had already said that I would do, the commitments I had. But I One of the strategies that I used was I said no, and then I always said, but I will have a look at that in 3 months' time. And I pushed out what I was doing now to what that now would be 3 months ahead. So I could always say no for now, but it didn't mean no forever. And that gave me this, this kind of, protection, I guess. Did you have any other strategies for that? No, or did you find how to kind of deal with the difficulties?
I'm still working through that. So I'm a work in progress. I tell everybody, because I help people with well-being, and I'm not a poster girl for it. I'm a work in progress, but I'm certainly a lot better than I used to be. With the no, one of the things that I've found, because people pleasing is a real drive, or has been a real drive for me, it is not anymore necessarily, is being able to say things like, this is the time I've got and I can give you this much.
Right.
Or to be able to say, not right now. Or because sometimes people, the old thing of, if you want something done, ask a busy person.
Yep. And
I think that some people assume that it'll be okay. And because you've always said yes, that they think they don't do the work themselves because somebody will pick it up. And they know that you will say yes, so you will do it. Yeah. And so it's actually learning to be able to, if you say, not at the moment, or look, I can come and see you, I can do that, like you say, in a couple of weeks I've got a day, I'll give you a day then. Often what happens is people actually end up resolving their own stuff faster before they come back to you. And I think that sometimes in our efforts to people please and to help, we actually become we actually stop other people from growing.
Yep.
Because they know that they can ask us for the help, and we've always helped. So then they don't do the work themselves, which they're more than capable of doing.
Yeah.
And so that was also very helpful for me to reframe what I was doing, and so that I wasn't feeling like I was being mean or unkind or unhelpful.
Yeah.
That actually what I was doing was empowering other people to be able to learn the skills and experience and make their own mistakes, so then they could get better.
Yeah.
And so those were sort of some of the ways I went about it.
That's very good. I want to ask this question because as you moved into a business and then you're consulting, you're coaching, you're doing this type of thing. I mean, one of the things many of us are involved in is creating content. And I'd like to know, how did you create a strategy for yourself that you could give content to kind of the masses, to a large group of people? And what would that look like, or what does it look like? And then, so that you are giving, and so that, because that's what I found. And then when people will come to me, I'm like, oh, I've got that. You can download it here. Or I've got that. You can watch this video. Did you move into any of that as you began to evolve?
I've probably done that in a really piecemeal fashion.
Right.
And so a lot of my material, and I'm actually starting to get more organized with that now. Yeah. And go, actually, there's a whole heap of stuff I've got. And so it's about bringing it together. Yeah. What I do tend to do is, so I use social media a lot. Yeah. So I've got a couple of communities that I have nurtured and fostered and grown, and I tend to give a lot in those communities. And I think it's interesting. We were talking just before we started recording about how in some of the communities we've created, we have these relationships with people we've never met.
Exactly.
But these quite personal connections. And so in those spaces I tend to give a lot. And then I have my website that I've developed, and slowly materials going up there that people can access. And then it's just in that sort of one-to-one connection time when I'm presenting, if something comes up. Yeah. Sometimes it'll be that something comes up and I go, hey, look, I don't have that yet. Give me a week.
Yeah. It'll be there soon.
Yeah, it'll be there. Watch this space.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always a real challenging thing. I mean, I'm in the process of evolving into that and getting more organized with that. And even on this YouTube channel right now that I've chosen as my main platform to give out a lot of the content that I give. But I really resonate with you on how you have these communities, and those are those trusting places that people can get close to you. They can really, have that connection with you. And I think we're finding that a lot. I think we're going to find that a lot more of when I work in my space of personal branding. It used to be, just have that website, just get your social media. That was, a few years ago. I think we're really moving into the personal brands are having their communities. They're having these private spaces that if you want to be you want to be in that presence of that kind of learning or that content or whatever, that you would move into that. So that's exciting. And I can really imagine how that's going to evolve for you as well. I wanted to ask now, because it's kind of this question I think maybe others will be having in their mind as well. So you were trying to teach, you were teaching, and then you say, hey, I'm going to quit in a year. And then you try to get used to that. And then you said you're a baby in business and you're trying to learn everything and you've got all these extra fears. You're trying to keep the fear in the back seat of the car and hold on tight to the driving wheel. When we're doing the best version of ourselves, we wake up and we say, we're just going to live the best we can. There are other parts of our life that tend to get ignored, and they shouldn't get ignored. And can you speak on any of that?
Absolutely. And I've just been doing a little bit of reflection on that. So this is a perfect time for me to make a commitment out there. So whoever's listening can hold me accountable to this. And I've got a good friend, Karen Boyes, who talks a lot about how she has 3 priorities in her life, and it's herself, her well-being, then her relationship with her husband and her family, and then her work and everything else. And I've noticed that over the last year that I've had periods where everything's gone completely upside down.
Yeah.
And so, and when I've been doing that, that's when I feel really out of kilter.
Yeah.
Everything's wobbly around me. And some of that's, not all the time though, because sometimes when I'm in that work zone and I'm feeling invigorated and, I've got a project on and it's really exciting and it's filling me up, that's serving something for me. Yeah. But then I can become quite tunnel visioned on that. And that might mean that my family miss out. Yeah. And so getting that balance right. And I think that what I've been reflecting on actually quite a lot lately is it's not really about the number of hours that I'm attributing to anything. And I'm a big fan of work-life satisfaction rather than work-life balance. It's about the lens with which I look at things and I look at my day and I organise myself. Yeah. So if I look at things from the lens of how is this impacting me personally, how is this impacting my family and the people who I love most close to me, and then how am I going to share this with the world? Yeah. That helps to keep things in alignment. Yeah, that's really good. So that I have that awareness. But there have been times when honestly, this sleep has taken the back seat. Like if it's been a day where my son has been home from school, so that means I haven't worked during the day, so I've worked at night. Yeah. After everybody else has gone to bed. And those sorts of things. And that working, I love the flexibility of working from home. Yeah. And not having to turn up to a workplace every single day. But it does lend yourself to sometimes some unhealthy habits. So that's been a journey. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think, from my experience and talking to others and yourself as well, it really is that every time you sort of up level, because there's always an up level, there's always something. I mean, I always say opportunities breed like rabbits. So we keep getting opportunities as we continue to grow. And that is just something, that is what is really challenging. I know for me, it totally is. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you are a baby in business, and I love that because I know a lot of people that are thinking about, I would love to do something, one day, and I would love to have my own business. I would love to be able to work from home, that kind of thing. What things have you learned being that baby in business to where you are now?
So I probably learned a lot through my mistakes.
Yeah.
I'm happy to share those. If I can help anybody steer clear of some of my mistakes, that would be good. I think having a bit of a plan helps because it gives you, and it doesn't have to be a really firm plan.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be flexibility when you start something new because you simply don't know what the landscape is necessarily going to be. But doing a bit of research and having a bit of an idea of what you're going into means that when you get there, everything it's not like being on another planet.
Right.
And so that helps to ease the transitions. I think another thing I've learned is that ask for help.
Yeah.
It's actually okay to ask for help. You're not impinging on people's time and energy. And actually most people want to help and want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're not the right people to hang out with, go hang out with someone else. It's a good way of weeding out people who you want in your life, isn't it?
Yeah.
But do ask. And there isn't a stupid question.
Right.
And because I know that often we judge ourselves because we think, like for me, I'm sitting there going, well, I'm 50 years old. I should know this stuff.
Yeah.
And so those sorts of things I think are really important. And knowing your why, because for me, at least knowing my why was that safe place I could come back to. It was like my anchor.
Yeah.
So, when things felt really wobbly, when I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, I don't know where my next dollar is going to come from. What was I thinking? Yeah. All of that stuff. I could come back to my purpose and go, right, this is why you made the decision you made.
Yeah.
Now, what's the next step you're going to take to move you one place on?
Yeah.
I now use a planning. So I have I now plan 3 months ahead.
Good. Yeah.
So every month I come and do, I do a monthly plan. And then I just add it to so I just do another 3 months going ahead. So I've always got an idea of where I'm going.
That's great.
Which helps a lot because, right at the start, I didn't have that. I literally sat there at the start of the week and went, so what have I got on this week?
What am I going to do this week?
Yeah, what magic's going to just pop up?
Yeah.
And the other thing is network. Share your story.
Yeah.
Get involved, talk to people. Because the other thing is that when you start talking to people, the help will pop up.
It does.
You haven't expected it.
Yeah.
And connections will be made. So, even if, and this is where I'm now at as a solopreneur, I'm not on my own.
Yeah.
And I never have been. And actually some of my best work is coming through collaboration, not through individually running the whole ship myself.
Yeah.
And so, I think that people factor is huge.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's such a good point that you go off and you start that business and you find all of a sudden you used to go to work, you were around people all the time, and all of a sudden you're at home, day after day by yourself. And if I would do something different, that I would earlier on, even perhaps before I even, cut the umbilical cord to to my lifeline of what I used to do, would be probably to begin to network more often and to give. Like, we need to give, we need to serve. And as we serve and as we add value to other people, which comes from us naturally because we all have gifts and talents. And then, just deciding on what that is. Gosh, that's so exciting. So, if we go from here, like where we were again on that last video that we had that conversation. And again, I'll link that below to where you are now. If you are to look ahead in the next few years and dream and think about where you want to be, or what are the things that you're excited about seeing happen or you want to do? What is that?
Oh, there's so many things I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, the world's my oyster. So one of the things that I actually do have as a project that I'm working on, I've only just started it, is bringing together my teaching stuff, my brain stuff, and I've got a book that I'm working on at the moment called, it's called Teaching and Learning with the Heart and Brain and Mind.
Cool.
And this has been something I've been passionate about for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about actually putting pen to paper and making this happen. And so that's one of my big things. And the coaching, working with people, working with individuals and teams. That's a space that I've started working in and I find incredibly fulfilling. One of the things I love is when you're coaching people, you see the change. It's exactly what you see in a classroom. But there's exponential change because when I'm lit up, I go out there and I interact with the world differently. My family benefits, my workplace benefits, everybody I meet benefits.
Yeah.
And so this is actually the way to start creating a chain reaction that improves the world around us.
Yeah.
And so for me, that the coaching is something that I'm really enjoying, and I'm looking at, ways that I might bring my teaching and my coaching together. So how I may be moving into working with younger people and working with families.
That's fantastic.
As a coach.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And working with people in, again, my age range, midlife woman.
Yeah.
Because for us, we're in this twilight zone sometimes where we are going through change. We're seeking change. Our bodies are changing. The world around us is changing. Our interactions with others is changing. And sometimes that can be really disorienting. And so helping people to work through that stuff so they can go out there and just live their best lives.
Yeah, exactly.
So those are the places that I'm sort of leaning towards at the moment.
Yeah. So if people want to get in touch with you and find out more about you, what would be the best way to do that?
Either through email or my website. So the website is www.meggallagher.nz.
Yeah. And
my email is meg@meggallagher.nz.
Cool. So I'll put those links below so people can get in touch with you, and also, your social media contacts and that. And I wanted to just ask before we finish, we just had a conversation before we started about this big change that we all are going to be dealing with in the world. And that is the whole, movement into AI. And from an education point of view, I know there'll be parents here with young people in schools. I know there'll be people in businesses. And I mean, I think there's a fear there. And so what would you have to say about that?
Firstly, the fear is understandable because it's new, because it's different. And for most of us, I'm assuming, I know for me, I don't really understand how it works.
Right.
I just know it's there and it's amazing. But there's enormous potential in it as well.
Yeah.
And I think that from an educator's point of view, that this actually demands that we now really, really shift our energies to focusing in on humanity and on human qualities and on how to connect, and also on critical literacy.
Right.
AI is not perfect.
No.
At all. And so a big thing is, when you ask a question, you only get back what you ask about for a start off. Yeah. And there may be biases represented in there. And so it's really important that we are teaching our children, which, look, honestly, in the last 10, 15 years, fake news, all sorts of stuff, that critical literacy has been so, I think we've been so bereft of critical thinking that now it's just really apparent. And with AI, it's just going to be completely necessary. And so I think, for us as parents, it's about asking, like with my own son, I do this. I ask him, so what do you think? Where do you get that information from? How do you know it's true?
Exactly.
What other perspectives might there be, or whose voice isn't being heard? And so constantly asking those questions so that we can start sort of peeling back the layers. And then we can use AI. I use it. Mm-hmm. I'm a big Chat GPT girl, because I love the fact that it expedites some things for me. Exactly. And it takes the legwork out of some stuff that I don't need to spend a lot of time on. And then I can get down to the real work and humanize whatever I'm getting and put my bent on it, or take from it what I want, and then add my flavor.
Yeah, I was thinking about this whole AI, and I kind of equated it to when the dishwasher came into being. And I remember, hearing about when it first came. I mean, it wasn't that good. And so, you could put your dishes in, but you had to really rinse them before you did, and almost wash them before you put them in the dishwasher. And then when it was done, they were always kind of wet and you had to dry them. It wasn't a great machine, but it made it faster. But now we have great dishwashers. We can just throw everything in, it washes it and takes everything off, and it's dry, and we can put it away. And the thing is that what that does is, by using something like a dishwasher, is that it allows us to be more creative, to spend more time creating food and learning about food and the science of food, and experimenting and doing what we do as humans, and sharing that. Now people are sharing what they're cooking on, on their social media, on their YouTube. They're creating businesses out of it, And so, AI, I think, needs to be put into the box of, it's like a dishwasher and it's coming out. It's not that great right now. It's got a lot of things, but it can allow us to be more human. But the more human is really the focus, isn't it? Yeah. So
it's a great comparison, the dishwasher. I think that's fabulous.
Yeah, I love that. So, Megan, we're going to finish this up. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's been amazing. I really enjoyed chatting with you. And I look forward to maybe in another year or so, we'll catch up on what you're doing and find out about this book that is going to be published. I know when I started writing my first book, I had that limiting belief of, who am I to write a book? And it was like, I'm not an author and everything. And I had a book mentor tell me, she said, no, you are an author. You're an author because you're writing a book, and then you'll become a published author. And I thought that was really good.
I'll hold on to that, because
it's our mindset. It's our mindset. So any last words? Is there an inspirational quote or anything that you use to keep you going every day?
Actually, one of the quotes that I use quite often is this one, and it's, hopefully it's not too long, but it's from Haim. I don't know if it's Ginot or Guinot, who is a psychologist, a child psychologist and a teacher. And he wrote this: I've come to a frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element in the classroom. It's my personal approach that creates the climate. It's my daily mood that makes the weather. And then it goes on to, it's a beautiful quote. But what I love about that is that I try as much as possible. I don't always succeed.
Right.
But that's the philosophy I take into any interaction with anybody. When I walk into a room, when I go to stand on a stage and present, or when I go to sit down at the dinner table with my family, or when I walk into a classroom, or when I sit with a coaching client, it's about actually, I'm the decisive element in here as to whether this is going to go as well as I want it to or not. So it's about get myself in order first.
Yeah.
So that's our breathing, that's our presence, that's that mindfulness, and so that's like a touchstone for me, and it has been for a very long time. So I thought I'd share that one today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, thank you, Meg. That was fantastic. A great way to end this, and have a great day.